Okay, we're starting the shiur now. As I said, this shiur is partially a redo of the previous shiur. It's clearer now. I hope that it's clearer. Just by way of introduction, this shiur is not fully encompassing of the sugya. There is Chavas Das on it. There is same one that wrote the Chavas Das also wrote the Mesilas Mishpat. I'm going to mention them at the end. I want to go through, although the previous shiur I did cover part of what I'm doing. I'm going to start again from the beginning, make sure everything is clear. All right. So the Mishnah starts, Malva Sela, someone who lends one Sela for the condition, which is a Sela, everyone knows, is worth 4 dinarim, on condition you're going to get back 5 dinarim, or 2 Sa'achitim on condition you're going to get back 3 Sa'achitim. It's Asr. Why? Because it's Noishech. It's Neshech. What is Noishech? Rashi says you take from the loiva something that you did not give him. You gave him 2 Sa'ah, you're taking from him 3. You gave him 4 dinarim, you're taking from him 5. It's Noishech, and that is Asr from the Torah. Then the Mishnah continues, though Tarbis, an example of something where the Malve makes more, but the Loiva does not lose anything. The Gemara opens by saying Neshech v'Tarbis seems to be the same thing. Then the Gemara right away asks, is there such a situation that you have Neshech without Tarbis, that you could have that the Malve is going to take something from the Loive that he did not give him, but the Loive, there's no Tarbis, means the Malve is not getting anything extra, or the other way around, that you have Tarbis, that the Malve is getting extra, is Malbe Mamainoi, but there's no Neshech, the Loive is not losing anything. And the Gemara brings 2 possible scenarios. First scenario is a person gives a halva, a loan of 100. And he makes a condition, when you pay me back, you pay me back 120. At that point, 100 coins were worth a danke. A danke is a 6. Exactly which coins they are and relative to which coin are we talking about? It's Machlekes Rashi Taisus. I'm not going to get into it now. But basically, it's 100 coins for a danke. And then, when the time came to pay back, the coins are worth less now. The value of the coins is less. And now a danke was worth 120. So in the beginning, you made a deal that you're going to get paid 120 for the 100 you gave. Yeah, but right now, the Malva is not making any money off it because the 100 is worth only, because the 120 today is worth the same as the 120. The 120 today is worth the same as the 100 then. So Gemara says, the Chayred is Neshech, because you gave him 100 and you're getting back 120, but there's no Tarbis. Why is there no Tarbis? Because the Malva is not making any money off it. The Malva gave a danke and got back a danke. The Gemara says no. Yeah, there's no. You can't have one without the other. If you go through according to the original time of the loan, means you look at the time when the loan was given. So there is neshech because the loive received 100 and he's giving 120, so extra 20. And there's also tabis because at the time of the loan, the extra 20 are worth the extra 20 were there. So if you look at only the time of the loan, so he's the malva is making this tabis. He's mad b'mamoyne. And if you go after lebasov, if you go after the time when you pay back, then there is no neshech and there's no tarbis. Why? Why is there no neshech? Because the loive received a danke and gave back a danke, and there's no tarbis because the malve gave a danke and received a danke. Didn't make any money off it, and the loive didn't lose any money off it. Then the Gemara brings a second story. Opposite. Now, the first story was that the coin got devaluated. Now, the story of the coin, the value went up. Person gave 100 coins, and he wants back 100 coins. no ribis, l'chayra, yeah? You sign a contract, I give you 100, I'm getting back 100. And at the beginning, 100 coins are worth a danka. But at the end, 100 coins are worth a chumsha, a fifth. A danka is a sixth, a chumsha is a fifth. So the question is the ribis over here? Yeah, is the nashach, is the tarbis? The Gemara thinks there is over here tarbis. Why? Because the malva is making more money. He gave a danka and is getting back a chumsha, a fifth. He gave back a sixth of the he gave back a sixth and he's getting back a fifth. But there is no nashach because the loive got 100 and gave back 100. The Gemara says no. Again, whether if you look at it according to Meikara, the time of the loan, there's no neshach, there's no tarbis. He gave 100, got back 100. The loive got 100 and gave 100. The malva gave 100, got 100. So there's no neshach because the malva didn't take more from the loive, and there's no tarbis because the loive didn't give more than what he got. And if you go basel lebasov, you go according to the end, then you have both neshach and tarbis. Why? Because the loiver received the value of a danke, and he gave back the value of a chumsha. And there's also tarbis because the malva gave the value of a danke and received the value of a chumsha. So he made an additional 14, something like that, coins. Yeah, we have. That's the Gemara. We have a few questions on this. Questions, but understanding of this sugya. Yeah, what's Meikara, what's Lebasov? How do you look at the halva? Bichlal, first question is a very serious question. When does the issur of ribis happen? When does the issur of ribis chal on a transaction? You have a transaction. When is this transaction defined as a kosher transaction? When is this transaction defined as a ribis transaction? Means what's the defining moment of a loan? The time of signing the document, the time you receive the money, that you give the money, or the time that the malva gives the money, or the time that the loiver returns the money. So obviously common sense would dictate, you think about it, that why should it be an issue of ribis when you lend money? According to simple logic, you go based on the end. Why? Because there's a chazok and other perei achay v'tech zmanei. So there's a chazok that people don't pay back on time. Some people don't pay back bichlal. So it could be that you're going to lend money and you're not going to end up with any payment. But it's not how the Gemara looks at it. Everybody eats the cheskas kashrus. So we're looking at a loan and we know it's going to get paid back. It's a mitzvah l'frei achayv, and therefore we need to know when do we define this issur of ribis. If you define it, do you define it based on the beginning, on the giving moment? If there is no ribis at the time of signing the document, then there's no ribis at the time of payment. What? Yeah, that's the whole question. What do you mean? If the question of meya b'meya and the value changes, there's a big difference. If it's chalami karol lebasov. Both scenarios. I'm saying the real question is, and again, I could say whatever I want. If I lend you right now money and I tell you that you have to pay me back next year 150, I give you 100 and tell you next year pay me 150. That's the first scenario, and I don't tell you why. So could be then I'm throwing it in there. Could be there will be ribis at the end. Could be there won't be ribis at the end. You don't know if the value of the coin will drop because of inflation or because the government is going to print a lot more money. And so people will be happier with getting printed a lot more money, but it's going to make the value of the currency go down. Buying power, the defining of the value of the currency, buying power of $1 is going to go much less if there's many more dollars in the market. That's the teva ha'olam. The teva ha'olam is that the more money floats around, the less each of it is worth, or anything for that matter. Anything, the more of it floats around the world, the less value it has, because it's easier to get. And something which is less of, the value is more. So a currency could be a currency that's based on a real, is backed by something which of value, gold, silver, and gold is backed by by something of real value. It doesn't devalue, it doesn't go up or down so drastically. It's something which is not based on value, could go up and down drastically. So today you have that question in any loan, really. We're not going to go into the halacha now about it, but today you really have the question in every loan, because every currency there is inflation in the world, and currencies go up, currencies go down, mostly go down. And also you have to know based on which currency you're looking at. Yeah. If I'm in America, so we Americans believe that that everybody should be pegged to the dollar, because we're the ones who control the world, supposedly. So every currency is supposed to be based on us. But lav dafka, the rest of the world looks at it that way. It means if you're in Eretz Yisrael, so the value of the shekel is not only dependent on the dollar, it's also dependent on the local economy. The fact is, the shekel, it's a shaila like this, and this is we're going to get to later. The tzachkira, one becomes stronger, one became weaker. When you give shekels versus dollars. Yeah, we'll use examples everybody knows about. Shekels versus dollars. Did the shekel get stronger or the dollar got weaker? Sometimes the answer is one way. Sometimes the answer is the other way. It depends what happens in the world. Yeah. So that's the question. You have to see. Sometimes it could be one. Sometimes it could be the other. Sometimes it's both. Yeah. Sometimes it's both. Sometimes it's both. Sometimes it's one or the other. Sometimes. What's the difference going to be? Yeah. That's going to be if you look at one. If you look at the currency it depends which money I borrowed with. If I borrowed shekels and the shekels went up in value, yeah. So the shaila is Mikar Lebasov. Do you go based on the value? Do you go based on the quantity? If I lent you 1,000 shekels and now I want to get back from you 1,000 shekels a year later, and the value of the shekels went up, yeah, because it's pegged to a different currency or for whatever reason it went up, and maybe it's a shaila of ribis.
No, it doesn't make a difference. What's the reason?
Yeah, sure it is. Because if I lent you 1,000 shekels and the shekels value is the same, the only reason why right now the shekel versus the dollar is worth less, and it has nothing to do. A lot of times people will peg, in a lot of countries, they peg their currencies to the dollar. And they peg the value based on the dollar. But it's lav dafka, that's the real value of the coin. Could be that the coin is worth more. Could be the coin is worth the same. The other currency fell. If you say meikara, if you say meikara and you go based on number and you don't care about the value b'chlal, the same number in the beginning, same number in the end, you don't have a problem. If you care about value, then you have to decide how much you have to give at the end. If the value of your coin went up, yeah.
Usually you're giving for.
Usually
when you're giving out all amount.
It's only if you have a stable currency. In America, you're used to it because it's supposed to be a stable currency. Not much.
Yeah, the style is in these countries
in other countries, they give an Eretz Yisrael, when you give a halva that's pegged to the dollar, you have a big shaila. It's a big shaila, that's the shaila of ribis. Yeah, very big shaila. Pegged to the dollar means I give you right now 3,000 shekels, and I say it's called halva tzmuda, the matbea chutz. That's the official name of it. Halva tzmuda, the matbea chutz. The regular loans, most loans are tzamud, the matbea chutz.
So you really owe like $1,000.
So what's going to happen is,
You basically owe American dollars.
You owe American. That's the thing. You owe shekels according to American dollars value. So if it's I sold you the coins, did I sell you dollars for this price, or did I just lend you shekels and I told you it's pegged to the other price? Kind of definition.
This kind of tzmuda is always to the dollar, the American dollar.
In recent, as far as I know, yes, that's the. Whether it's good economically or not, I don't know. It's not my field of expertise, but that's how they do it. It's but it's a shaila of ribis. If it's tzamud, it's a shaila of ribis. It's a shaila of ribis regardless of what changes. If I give you more shekels, it's a shaila of ribis. If I go based on Kamos, I go Meikara. There's no Meikara. By definition of Tzamud, there's no more Meikara. Yeah, it's Lebasov. I define it as Lebasov. But the Shaila is, if we paskin and we go Meikara, then I don't care what I wrote in the paper. If the halacha is that Ribis gets defined Meikara, then when I make a halvat tzmuda and that loan that's attached to the dollar, the price goes on it's Ribis, yeah.
So the whole question of make curve is only if it's set, you're going based on the amount, not the value.
It could also be based on value. Because if the value changes and it goes higher, and I'm giving you right now the same amount of coins, but it's worth more,
There won't be a difference then if it's make curve safe on the value. It will always be ribs.
not always be
If the
Ribis.
value changes.
Huh?
If the value changes.
If the value changes and we go Levasoif, yeah, then we have a problem.
And make curve, you may have to give this amount that goes up and down. It's also
Mikara, I say I don't care about the fluctuation of the price. I gave you I gave you this value then. I want this value back. So there's no ribis. If I go levasoif, then it's a shayla. How to define it? Yeah. Now the Gemara doesn't tell you whether you go mikara or levasoif. Second question is, what is mikara? What is levasoif? Do we look at the numbers? Do we look at the value? Do we look at the quantity? Do we look at the value? That's the two questions. Huh? Yeah. When I lend $100, do I look at the $100 as a number? Is there $100 in my pocket and there's $100 going out of my pocket? Or do I look at the $100 at what the $100 is worth? Now, for each person, $100 is worth something else. I could measure it. It could be $100 could be measured by how much cans of Coke I could buy. The $100 could be measured, depends on what age you are. It could be measured how many Mike and Ike's you could buy, or it could be measured how much silver you could buy, or how much gold you can buy. Huh? If you go based on the Kamus?
Yeah.
Because if I tell you that I'm asking you for more, yeah, and we go based on Kamus, and we don't consider the value Bichlal, then there's always going to be ribis. Huh?
Doesn't matter if you're going.
So that's why you have to connect the value also. It's a value. Which one is the main one? The value or the quantity? Kamus on its own, there's no difference. If I tell you mechatchila, we go it's only based on Kamus and only Meikara, then
No, only Meikara. There's no chiluk.
there is, because I'm going to end up losing ultimately if the currency goes down.
Kamus is whatever you made up.
Right, but the question is, then it goes based on Kamus. It's not Shiloh Ribis. But that doesn't make sense to go based on Kamus, which is what we're going to get to later. It doesn't always make sense to go based on Kamus if the currency loses. Yeah, that's the whole Shiloh. If you look at currency like fruits or based on how many fruits you can buy. Yeah, let's continue.
I don't know if it's the same situation, but what happens if, let's say, a bottle of wine,
Yeah.
it wouldn't change, but the only reason why it changed, let's say, an example because of what happened in America, it was whatever it's called.
Yeah, okay.
So it was a very expensive bottle. It was like a very it was made only because of him.
Well,
the fact
okay.
is that now he's not could be more expensive, less expensive.
Well, we're talking about coins now.
That's
About Peiros, we're not discussing Salbasa. It's a whole different subject. Wine goes into the category of fruits. Question is if coins go into the category of fruits also or not. Yeah, then if it's the rice, if it's the rabbanon, safek kahin, safek kaherigo, safek the rice lechumra, safek the rabbanon lekula. And if it's the rice, is it yotze b'dayanim or not?
You see something about the Kolel? Who's the Kolel there?
Who is the kula? The kula is who's going to be over the nisser. If I pay you more, if the lev is paying you more, is he over the nisser or not? And that's if you look at it mitzad ribis. And we're going to a whole different sugi. If you look at it as ribis is mitzad gzeil or ribis is mitzad something else. Why do I have to pay back ribis? Because I was over the isser or because I stole something from you? Who's over the isser? Now, over the isser because I took it, or am I over the isser because you gave it, or both of us are over the isser? Who has to do tshuva? And how do you do tshuva? The Edom also. The Edom are the worst because they didn't make any money off the transaction. Yeah, that's this whole separate. I'll give a share on that at a different time. What's the definition of ribis? If it falls, which category does ribis fall into?
And then you're not to steal from it, right? It's a mitzvah to collect that, but it's.
Yeah. So the question is, why do I have to pay back ribis? Because it's also for me to take ribis. So the money I took from you, is that money I stole from you or not? The only reason I have it in my possession is because I made an agreement with you. You're going to pay it to me. So you gave it to me willingly. Why am I a gazlan? We compare it to Gzeilah. So that's a shayla. That goes back to what's the Suffolk Derabanan L'Kula. If it's a Suffolk Gzeilah Derabanan, or who we make Kolel. Is it on the Kula is that you're allowed to keep the Gzeilah, or the Kula is that I don't have to pay you. I don't have to assist you to be Geisel me because it's a Suffolk. Okay, there is, before we continue in, there is a sugya in Perek Hazav, which is a previous Perek, which is not in your book, but it's in your booklet, as I printed it in the beginning. Sugya in Perek Hazav, the beginning of Perek Hazav, starts with an interesting question. Everybody knows that you want to buy something which is metaltal and something which is movable, not land. You kinyan by Meshicha, by pulling, taking possession of it. Yeah, so if you don't do Meshicha, if I pay for something and I didn't do Meshicha, the shaila is, and the shaila, there's no kinyan, I could change my mind, or you could change your mind. Yeah? Or the one who got the money doesn't have to sell it to you, just give you back the money and goodbye. Yeah, so the Mishnah opens up by saying Azov koines hakesef is the kesef eine koines Azov, the Choshes koines hakesef, kesef eine koines and the Choshes. Yeah, is if I want to buy Zav, yeah, and I pay for it with kesef, I want to buy a certain amount of golden coins, and I pay for it with silver coins, which is a standard currency. So a silver coin is considered a matbeya. A golden coin is considered peiros, considered metaltal. So the only way a kinyan could be finished is when the buyer does meshicha on the coins of gold, because they're peiros. But if the buyer who wants to buy the coins only gave the silver coins but didn't do meshicha on the golden coins, and there's no kaina, ain't a kaina. Yeah, that's the words of Mishnah. That's hakesef, ain't a kaina zav. Me giving the kesef, I'm not making a kinyan on the zav because I didn't do a meshicha on the zav yet. Same thing with copper, the choishes. And the Gemara afterwards explains in the next page what's the difference between kesef and zav and the choishes. That kesef, the words of the Gemara is it's a charif, it's stronger. Rashi explains what is a charaf means. Yotze b'itza, it's what's used regularly and for purchasing. It moves from one person to another. It's a currency which is the standard currency to use. But gold and the choishes are not that strong of a currency. Yeah, and this is the Rishonim over there of Al Machlokes. I'm going to get into it now. What's considered charif? Where does the matbeya have to be? What's considered Yoitze B'Itza? Does that mean in every country? Does that mean in Eretz Yisrael? Does that mean only in the location where you're talking about? Do we look only at our location? How do we define a coin versus a coin which is charif versus a coin which is not charif? Yeah, and based on that, it's the question: what's considered peiros and what's not considered peiros? Which coin is considered a pri? Which coin is not considered a peiros? Yeah, that's the sugya over there. Why is it important to understand the sugya? Because there are two sugyas which are connected to this. One's in Perek Hazav, one's in Perek HaGoizel, and those two sugyas are in your book. And those are the two sugyas which are intertwined in this whole sugya. Yeah, let's go through the Rishonim, which go through the sugya, go through a summary of the Rishonim. You have the Ritva. The Ritva explains. Now, there's on Bava Metzia you have two Ritvas. You have the old Ritva, which is, and you have the new Ritva. Yeah, we call it the Chadash, and we're looking at the new Ritva. The old Ritva doesn't have that much. The old Ritva was Miyuchas to Ramban, I think. So we're looking at the newer Ritvas. The New Ritva, over there, he explains like this. First of all, he tells you, you have to go basar mikara, basar basayf. You can't choose one case to go mikara, one case labasayf. It's clear that the Gemara, when the Gemara says I basar mikara, basar labasayf, it's not telling you that you go one way or the other. It's not telling you that you pick and choose which one to go by. That you can go both ways. If you want to be machmer on the malve, you'll choose which one to go meikara, which one to vasayv. If you want to be machmer on the love, you'll choose which one to be going meikara, which one to vasayv. That's not how it goes. It has to be either one way or the other. And then he tells you the reason why the Gemara doesn't tell you meikara vasayv is pshita. It's a pashita thing, simple thing. Pasuk says, "Lo yisasimu nolav neshech." Don't place upon him neshech. Huh? It's the Ritva Diba Maschel V'Tizbera. It's on the same page. He says, towards the end of that paragraph, it's Pashat, it says, Simun olav neshech. Don't place upon him neshech. When you place it upon him in the beginning. So obviously, we go Meikara, and that's so Pashat, the Gemara didn't have to tell you about it. Yeah, so first of all, the Ritva clear, you go about Meikara. Then the Ritva continues. Why is this different than Sa'ah b'Sa'ah? We know Sa'ah b'Sa'ah is as follows. According to the Chachamim, Midaraisa Sa'ah b'Sa'ah is mutar. The Abanon, the Shail of Sa'ah b'Sa'ah is I lend you a Sa'ah of fruits in condition that you're going to give back to me a Sa'ah of fruits down the line on a different date. And the Chachamim are Oiseret. Well, there's certain ways around it. The Chachamim are Oiseret. Why? Because maybe the value of the fruits is going to go up between now and then. Yeah, and if the value went up, if a se'ah of potatoes today was worth a certain amount of money, se'ah of chitim was worth a certain amount of money, and then when the value went up, in 3 months I pay you back, the value of a se'ah of chitim is more, and I pay you the same se'ah of chitim back, so I gave you ribis d'Rabbanan, because you made now more value than what it is. We look at the value to a certain degree. So the chayra, if I lend 100, and to get back 100, should be the same shaila of sa'ah b'sa'ah. If I give you in coins, which are going to be coins which fluctuate, maybe it should also be asur. According to Chacham, it's at sa'ah b'sa'ah. So the Ritva says very simple. It says, by peire yakiri v'zili, fruits have a tendency to fluctuate in price. More than coins. Yeah? Why is that? Especially those, because fruits, it all depends on the Eibishter, depends on the market, it depends on the today. The value of it, the value of a cucumber, value of an avocado depends on a few things. It's coming from Mexico. The value of avocado has to depend on the weather in Mexico. First of all, if the weather is too cold, and half of the avocados go kaput. They don't reach the same size they're supposed to, and they go bad, or they never grow. So you have less avocados in the market. It depends on how they're getting along in the border over there. If it takes too long to bring the trucks through, then it costs more. If there is snow, if it's a cold weather and there's snow and there's ice, and it takes the truck, instead of taking him 5 days to get from the California border to New York, takes him 10 days because he's stuck in a snowstorm and somewhere in Ohio or Pennsylvania, then he's costs more also. There's more gas, you have to pay the trucker for longer, you can only drive him no more than 8 hours. A lot of things can happen. It rains too much, it could ruin the fruits. It doesn't rain at all, there's less fruits growing. So the fruits are based on that. There's a lot of things that can make a fruit change. In the olden days, the Gemara used the example of rain. Rain was the thing that made the difference. Today, you have a lot more things can go wrong in a fruit until you get it to you. And that's why whoever buys fruits and vegetables on a regular basis will see that you could get a tomato today for 99 cents a pound, and you get a tomato in 2 weeks, it'll be $2.79 a pound or $3.29 a pound, the same tomato. All right? And that's depends which places you go to. And also, you'll see something you pay attention to. It's not relevant to the share. When you're paying $3.29 for a tomato, it doesn't look as good as the 99-cent tomatoes. Because it's harder to get them, and they don't have enough. The reason why this is because it's less in the market. So they have to sell you also the ones that have spots on them. Usually, if it's a good crop, they'll throw out all the ones that look bad. Or they'll sell them to tomato sauce plants. Like this, they have to sell also the bad ones. Yeah, so when it comes to Sa'ah B'Sa'ah, it's a Shiloh. The fruits go up and down. So coins don't go up and down. Yeah, now that's the Ritva. The Ramban also says Mikara Azlina. Kaimalon, the Bilsa Mikara Azlina. And that's why he says that Sa'ah, he does compare Sa'ah B'Sa'ah. He says Sa'ah B'Sa'ah, that's why, because we go Mikara, that's why Sa'ah B'Sa'ah, but Deraisa is Mutter. Because we go Mikara, so we don't care what the value is going to change. Sa'ah B'Sa'ah is Mutter Mideraisa. It's also Miderabanan.
The Ritva answer players are not money because it's just more.
Yeah.
Is he Mazur Kollel?
Huh?
Is he Mazur Kollel?
Who?
The Ramban.
The Ramban does not masber chiluk. He compares coins to Sa'ah B'Sa'ah.
Saying that.
Just because since Meikara, since we know we follow Meikara, that's the halacha. So b'meila by Sa'ah B'Sa'ah, there's no issue midiraisa, only midirabbanan. Yeah, and we don't look bichlal at the change of the. And he says even if you want to go levasayif, there's no difference in. We never look at the value. We look at by coins. We don't look at the value. We look at the coins are more stable. We look at the coins, and therefore, even if you go levasayif, there's not going to be any ribis. Only by Sa'ah B'Sa'ah Peiris, you would have that question.
Usually he says you go according to the amount, not the value.
You go according to the amount, yeah. Then the Mukhi Yosef is the Mukhi Yosef also in our Mishnah. He also says Basar Mikara, then you go Mikara. And therefore he says that when in the Mishnah tells us when you lend, if I lend you 2 Sa'ah Chitim to get back 3, or if I lend you a Sela, which is 4 dinarim to get back 5 dinarim, and then the value changes and the value drops, and now 2 Sa'ah is worth 3, means what 2 Sa'ah then, the value of 2 Sa'ah then is the same as 3 Sa'ah today, so I'm not making any money. Since we go Meikara, so it's Ribis Deraisa. He calls it Ribis Deraisa, doesn't say the Rabban, it's Ribis Deraisa. We go Meikara. If the value changes, it makes no difference. It still remains Isur Deiraisa. And therefore, it's Yoitze B'dayon. Sa'ah B'Sa'ah is being that in the beginning, you didn't determine any extra amount, same Sa'ah, and in the end, it could be the value changed. So therefore, it's only Asim B'Daraban, it's not Yoitze B'dayon. Yeah, and then we have the Ran. The Ran is the last one that Rishonim we're going to discuss. The Ran says, first of all, he says that if we're talking about, he wants to differentiate Neshech and Tarbis. There's a difference. As by Neshech, it would make sense to go Meikara. Why? Because Neshech is defined me telling you how much I want to take more from you. Yeah, I'm the Malve, and I'm notifying you that I'm going to take more from you. So Neshech is defined Meikara. So if you want to look at Neshech, it will be Meikara. Because in the beginning I say 100,
Or when I actually take it.
Huh?
Or when I actually
When I tell you, when I make a deal with you that I'm giving you 100 on condition you give me 120, I am stating that I want Neshech. So I should be over the Isra of Neshech then. But Tarbis means that I'm making more money off you. When do I make more money off you? When I get the money. So there,
He's only losing the money when he has to pay you. Not when he decides to.
Yeah, so that's the thing is if you want to differentiate, Neshech means that I'm going to take from you something which you didn't give me. So I'm going to take from you something which I did not give you. And Tarbis means that my bank account is going to grow higher. I'm going to make money off you. So when do I make money off you? When you pay me.
when I
And it was safe.
when I take the money.
But the definition of Neshech is when I place on you this Neshech. So it seems. Yeah. Yeah, he says because the way that Ran explains it is that Neshech is based on your when I place the restriction on you, and Tarbis is a reality question. Was there Tarbis or there is no Tarbis? So that's l'chayra should be. That's the question of the Gemara. Mikara levasayif. Yeah, even though pisvara, you could say one or the other. The convention is going to be called basayif, and the Gemara says no, you can't separate the two. You can't have neshech without tarbis. You can't have tarbis without neshech. You can't start saying that one happens at the beginning, one happens at the end. Doesn't make sense. Therefore, you have to have neshech. When you look at Meikara Lebasayif, it's both of them together. Either there is neshech and there is tarbis, or there is no neshech and there is no tarbis. You can't have one without the other. Yeah, and then the Ran says, but lenient dinner we go Meikara. We go Basar Meikara. And therefore, if there is, and it says, and then there is the Nigo Meikara, if there's neshech, if in the beginning I give you a higher number, then it's midiraisa. And if I don't place on you a higher number from the beginning, then it's not deraisa. We go Meikara. Doesn't tell you what it is. It says, but by Sa'ah, the only shaila is that midiraisa it's for sure mutter. Even though it goes up, it's midiraisa is no isser. Then he ends, he says, if you give a halva of meya b'meya 100, for 100, afa gav the ikur basar hachi, even though the value went up, midiraisa shari. He doesn't say it's mutter, it's midiraisa shari. Yeah. Now it's interesting to point out that he uses the words midiraisa shari, and he continues after saying that sa'ah b'sa'ah midiraisa shari means he compares the two, the sa'ah b'sa'ah to this, and he adds that by coins, when he says by coins, meya b'meya, and the value went up, midiraisa shari. So you could think, and you could be medayik from the Ran, that he would hold that meya b'meya, if the value goes up, midrabanan it's still asr. Even though we go meikara, this whole question of meikara, it's parallel to sa'ah b'sa'ah, and therefore midiraisa shari, or maybe midrabanan it's not. Exactly, does he hold like that lamaisa? I don't know, but you can medayik that from the Ran. So that's the Ritva, Mukhi Yosef, Ran, and Rambam.
Isn't it pretty clear if it says in the Raisa Shari that he holds the Rabbanan it's not Shari?
Could be just uses Matbei Alosh, but nobody else uses the words Raisa Shari. So you could say that the Rabbanan it's still also. Yeah, could be. But I'm not saying for sure. He doesn't write it. I can't tell you for sure he holds that way, but that's what it looks like. The Hagoyes Ashri on the Rosh. Let's see, you have in the Rosh, where it says Hagoy, first Rosh on this Perek is Hagoyes Ashri. And there is, the Hagoyes Ashri says that there's a suffix. If we go Meikara or Lebasayif, V'lo Yifshita, there's no conclusion of the suffix. We don't know if we go Meikara or Lebasayif. Therefore, if you lend 100 and you're on condition you can get back 120, and the value went down, you're not allowed to take the extra 20 because we have a suffix. We have a suffix if we Meikara or Lebasayif. Therefore, you're not allowed to take the extra 20.
Is the light allowed to give you the 100?
Huh?
Is the light allowed to give you the 100?
Which case? 100 versus 120?
So if it's 100 to 100.
So that's the thing. If it's 100 to 100, l'chayra, from the mashmos of the Ashri, and the same thing is from the Mordechai. If it's loy mesapkalon, we have a problem on both. L'chayra, we have a problem on both. Huh?
You have no idea what you could pay.
You definitely could pay according to the, if the value went up, you pay less. For sure. Huh?
Always paying less.
You're always paying less, yeah. Because it's a suffix, you're always paying less. Yeah, you're always paying less. If it's a suffix, and it's a suffix of ribis, you're always paying less. If it's a suffix, they're nicer.
Yes, technically it's also ISO for the labor to give less.
No, he just never finished paying back his loan.
That's what together is.
He never finished back his loan. He still has a chayv to the person. What do I want me to do? I can tell you, I have a suffix. You want me to do that? I see. You want me to mevater on those 13 cents? What am I supposed to do now? You want me to be over the issue of ribis? I can't. The Eibishter is bigger than your bank account.
There also a mitzvah to pay back your.
There is a mitzvah to pay back. So the question is, if paying that amount is enough to be pointed to you from the chiyuv or not. Right? What's the
Maybe the two mitzvahs have to do with each other. If you say that he's not paying back, then
you say that he's paying back, then that's where you define it. So you cut over the six.
What do you mean?
Maybe the two dinim of paying back your loan and paying rebis are connected to each other. And
They are always connected to each other.
they are connected. So,
So paying back is a chiyuv you have to pay back, and you have a chiyuv and you have a issa to pay ribis when you pay back.
is it considered paying back when you pay back?
If it's a suffix, then you always stay in the suffix if you paid back or not. But the halacha, it's clear that you go to Meikara. That's a separate. Beis Yosef brings the Malach, he goes to Meikara, you go Meikara. Yeah, then there was a story which I mentioned last time. I didn't go through all the details. Go through it now about the story that happened in Greece. It wasn't a story; it was a bunch of stories. But there was one story which was in the Chuvas, a few other stories along the Chuvas of that time. And it's basically, you have to remember, there's three kinds of coins that we're talking about over here. It's an introduction. You have the Valencia coin, which is a Spanish coin, strong coin. You have what they call levonim, and you have the grushim. Grushim were the smaller coins, or maybe not the coins in that country, in Greece at the time. Coins that we're discussing over there. And there was over here, Reuven sold 40 Valencias to Shimon. And he told him, I'm selling you these 40 Valencias at the price of 101 Levanim per Valencia. So 40 Valencias times 101 is 4,040. And you have to pay me back. You have to pay me in 2 months. That's what he says. That's the shtar as they sold you. Sold you 40 Valencias at the price of 101 Levanim each. So it's 40. 4,040. 4040. No heterisk. There's no heterisk. I sold you the coins at that value. At the time, and he says a condition, when you have to pay me with grushim, good grushim. Good high quality grushim that are over the seicher and everything. At that point, each grush was worth 50 levanim. Therefore, he makes a deal, right? You have to pay me in good grushim. Each grush is worth 50. So 50 times 40 is 80 grushim. Each one's worth 50. That's 4,000. And another 40 levanim. Like this, you're going to pay me back the loan in grushim plus 40 levanim. So it's going to be 50. It's going to be 80 grushim. Each one's worth 50 plus 40 levanim. Yeah, and then he concludes. The shtar concludes by repeating again. You have to pay until pruta achrona and good yeshanim that are used grushim, this grushim which are good. 2 months later, supposed to pay back. What happened during these 2 months? The king made a gzeira. You can't sell grushim for 50 levanim each. Each grush can't be sold for more than 40 levanim each. That means each grush now lost value. Because until now, each grush was worth 50 levanim. Now it's worth only 40 levanim. So now comes the time, and we have to see based on what are we looking at. The shtar says, pay me 80 grushim and 40 levanim. But now 80 grushim, each grush is only worth 40, not 50. The same time, the same shtar tells you, I sold you by 40 Valencias. Yeah? And each Valencia is worth 101 levanim. But you have to pay with grushim. So do we go on the number of 80 grushim? Or do we go on the number of 101 levanim? Valencia is still 101 levanim. If you go, the lender says, the Reuven says, you go based on the value of the grushim. I told you grushim.
It's not a shaila maximum.
It's a shaila and ribis because when I sold you the coins, I didn't actually. I gave you the coins. It's written below Mecher, but it's a shaila of ribis.
I sold you something.
Yeah, but I'm giving you coins. I'm gonna get back coins. And with a certain amount of time. I gave you money, get back money. I mean, I sell you.
$50 before
No, because $50 of a different value. It's a different kind of value. The silver coins. If you pay at that time, yeah. If you don't pay, if you pay later, pay later, it's a shayla. If I sell you a product, now, if I don't have it in stock, I sell you a product and you have to pay me. When does it's a shayla? When did this loan happen? Yeah, let's say, right, I sold you these coins today, and you made a meshicha, and these coins became yours today. But you're not paying me back. You're not paying me yet. I tell you have a payment plan. In 3 months, you have to pay me for it. So now your chayvus to pay me happened today. But you're paying me back, you're paying me in 3 months. If the value changes between now and then, it's a shayla of ribis. Why? Because the money that you're supposed to pay me today becomes as if I lent it to you today. Because you're holding it, you're not paying it to me. It's my money in your bank account. And then when you pay me, you're paying the loan. There's no such thing as a kinyan. When there's no such thing as a sale without getting paid. There's money over there. So the fact that I'm pushing off the payment is because I give you a loan for a long-term a loan. And there it is. Every transaction with a payment plan is essentially a loan.
Halachically, look at it like that.
Halachically, yeah. That's why we have problems with giving discounts when something you don't have, or doing early birds and stuff like that, because the money that you're holding for a product that was not delivered yet, or the other way around, the product was delivered and no money, whoever is holding the money is borrowing the money for a term.
What's the problem?
Ribis. If you give more, it's ribis.
More than the value?
If you give more than the amount, or if you give more than the value, if the value changed. So the question is, how do you look at this transaction?
Even if it's worth it in the dollar, what's it worth in the
I can't walk over to you now, pull out $100 bill from my pocket, and tell you I'm selling you this $100 bill for $150, and you pay me back next year.
Could you keep, let's say, one set of that thing or whatever?
If it's
chart, I'm waiting. I'm not selling it to anyone. Wait till you give all the sets to someone, and then sell the set for that same price. Then jack up the prices.
What do you mean?
Because you're taking in money.
Yeah.
For an early bird thing, whatever.
Yeah.
And keep something on the side which you didn't sell yet. One thing.
If you have it in stock, you have much less of a problem. The problem is when you don't have something in stock and it's only money. Over here, I gave you the coins. I sold you the coins. I sold you. It's a loan, whichever way you want to look at it. Yeah. So this change of value of coins affected the whole country, the whole area. A lot of shilas came up because of that. Sign loans, sign business transactions, sign people getting paid for work. You have the Marshach wrote 4 tshuvas on this topic. One of them is about the story, the other ones are about other stories. The Marshach, regarding this concept in general, there's 4 tshuvas of the Marshach. This specific story has an element which makes it different than the other stories. So in this story, the Rabban and Paskin pretty much the same, but for different reasons. Looking at it from different angles. But in general, the Marshach first starts in Chelek Aleph Siman Samach Beis. He says, first of all, I feel bad. It's hardly all I have said. I feel bad that people lost money because of this gzeira. But each year, there's to be matzdik as adin, and absorb this loss that he got because of this gzeira. And then he starts saying, then the Marshach starts explaining a sugi in the Gemara in Bava Kama, in Perek HaGoizel. He says, if I lend a malves chaver el matbeya, I lend you merchandise on a coin. It means I lend you merchandise for I decide, and we make it a time that when the time comes back, when the kind of time comes to pay it, you will pay me with a matbeya, with a certain coins, according to the value of this merchandise. It's like mechar, but you're not paying now, so that's why it's a halva. It's defined as halva. That's the definition. If I give you product now, and I give you a payment plan, I lent you product according to today's value. That's a malvus chaver el matbeya. And then this coin, nifsal matbeya, this coin is no longer nifsal. Can't use it anymore. It's out of, you know, they use this, they parcel this coin from being used. And there's a different coin being used now. So Rav says, you give him matbeya yoytze ba'oisei shah. Yeah, you give him, you pay him according to the new coin, according to the value now, what at this time. And Shmuel says, no, you could tell him, go to the city of Mishan where they still use the old coins, and I'm paying you with the old coins. These coins have no value where I am now. These coins are nothing. You go take them and melt them. That's the only value you get out of it. Take all these pennies and do nothing with them. It's old currency. Go to another country where the old currency is still, another city where this old currency is still in circulation. Yeah, and then over there you have Rashi and Taisvus explains that there's no difference whether it's really a loan of schayra for matbeya or if it's a loan of a matbeya towards a matbeya. If the matbeya goes bad, nifsal matbeya, then you could pay him. You pay him now according to what those coins were worth, because you took a matbeya, you're paying back a matbeya. It's a different matbeya. It's not a problem. Yeah. So the Marshach asks a question. He says, the first question, no, it's not a question on taste, it's a practical question. If a coin gets devalued but doesn't become totally possible, does it mean, totally out of circulation, is that considered nifsal matbeya, and therefore you could pay a different with a different coin? Or no, we say it got devalued, but it's not nifsal, doesn't have a new category. Yeah, so he says, even though according to, he says l'chayra, in the case of this grushim, yeah, since the grushim got devalued, if we say that grushim and that the grushim which became devalued are the same as a matbeya and nifsal, then you pay according to today's value. You don't pay according to the value at the time of the loan. The same as by nifsal, you pay according to today's value in today's coins. Same thing by went down. Huzal, you also pay in today's value according to today's coins. He says, no, you can't say that, because over there, by the time, in the Gemara over there, it's talking about the country which had one coin in circulation. That coin became totally possible. So you have two problems. First of all, you have no other coin to use. So you have to use a new coin. Second of all, it became totally possible. Over here, you're talking about there's other coins involved in the transaction, and it didn't become totally possible. So therefore, you can't say that you could pay according to the new value. And if there's a loss, the loss goes on the malva. What do you say? There's Levanim and there's Valencias. Yeah.
No.
No,
he
he pays in Grushim. He doesn't pay in Levanim. The question of Levanim and Grushim don't get it. If it's only Grushim versus Grushim, that coin still exists. It only got devalued. It didn't go out of circulation. And there's other coins that are also still being used. Even that coin itself is still in circulation. Grushim. Elamai, it's a different value. It's less of a value.
Can you say that a certain part of it is now valuation?
That you broke a piece off.
Shmuel said that go to a different city.
Yeah.
It's, over there it's valued more. Meaning over there it has a value. So you could say that in your city it lost 10%, meaning 10% of it is now to Leoya.
You can't think. He doesn't seem to look at it that way. And then he says that and another reason he says that you follow based on that you can't compare the two. He says because these coins, this grushim, probably made from the they were made from copper, I think. I'm not sure. And those coins are considered paydas, not matbeya. And being that they're considered paydas, yeah. And what's the definition of paydas? Paydas, the definition is something which the fluctuation in value is in itself. That means the fruits, the fluctuation in value is dependent. The value of it is dependent on something which happened to these fruits. And these coins also, the valuation or going up or going down is dependent on the actual coin. And therefore, it doesn't make a difference if the value goes up or the value goes down. You have to pay the grushim according to what was determined at the time of the halva. And he says, if it goes up, the malva is going to benefit of it. And if it goes down, the malva is going to lose of it. But the loiva has to pay what he said. He got a coin. The coin is not out of circulation completely. only got devalued, or if it would go up also, whichever way you would look at it, you go Meikara, you go up into the beginning. This is the number you took. Doesn't mean we don't look at the value. Bichlal. Yeah, and then the same thing is another tshuva in Siman Beis. The third tshuva, which is a Siman Kuf Yud Aleph, that's the one about this specific story. And over there, he paskins in this specific story, being that it's not written that I'm lending you grushim to get back grushim. It says I'm selling you Valencias for a price of 4,040 levanim, and you should pay me in grushim. Yeah, so he has to pay him in levanim, because what's the sale over here? The sale over here is not grushim. The loan is not grushim. The loan is 4,040 levanim. That's the loan. So you have to pay him back in levanim. You have to pay him 4,040 levanim, because that's the sale. That's the loan. That's the transaction is 4,040 levanim. When I tell you pay me in grushim, I'm only telling you as which bills I want you to pay me with. So I could tell you I want you to pay me with the new $20 bills or the old $20 bills, the ones with the strip or without the strip, or I want to check with a picture of a lighthouse, or I want to check with a picture of a deer. So I just told you how to pay me, but the transaction is 4,040. So because that's a transaction, so that's why in that case he has to pay him 4,040 levanim. And it's mashma if that wouldn't be written in the shtar, if the shtar would only say 80 grushim and 40 levanim, he would only have to pay 80 grushim and 40 levanim. He wouldn't have to pay a total of 4,040 levanim. 4,040 levanim, according to the new price, comes out to 100 grushim, right? Because if each grush was worth 50, then to get to 4,000, you have to give 80 grushim. If each grush is worth only 40, to get to 4,000, you have to give 100 grushim. So if he would pay with grushim now, he would have to pay 100 grushim, 101, because 4 each grush is worth 40, so you have 100 to cover the 4,000, and another grush to cover the last 40. Yeah, and then the same thing in the fourth tshuva, which is in Chelik Beis Siman Gimel. The Marshach also writes shortly. It's a very short tshuva, and he says all you have to give is the grusha shenosan loy rak sach hamois, the quantity of grushim that you got. Afal pi shekefi sach hagrusha nimtza shemachzir loy poches. Even though when you look at the quantity of the grushim, you're probably giving them back less. It's a different case. Oh no, different case. This specific case is different because of the contract.
So this would be the same case like the loans in Eretz Yisrael, which are
pegged. Yeah, if it's done in such a way that I'm selling you right now, I'm not lending. What I'm doing right now is I'm selling you $1,000. I write in the shtar, selling you $1,000 at 3.12 shekels, or I'm selling you whatever shekels at this and this amount per dollar. And I want to get paid in shekels on that. I want to get paid in shekels, but what I sold you is dollars. Elamai, I gave it to you I sold you dollars at that price. It doesn't work if I give you shekels. It only works over here because he sold in Valencias. He didn't sell in grushim. If we'd give him grushim and get back paid grushim, this wouldn't work. Only work because you have two different currencies over here. If I sell you in Eretz Yisrael dollars, I give you $1,000, and I tell you I'm giving you these dollars at the price of 3.2 shekels a dollar, and then,
So it would be grushim to grushim would be a perfect case.
Then even if the value of the grushim changes, it went down, you don't have to pay more. That's the other cases. This case is because there was more than one currency involved.
You could have just paid it back in Valencia.
That's what the Mashach says. The Mashach says, pay him back in Levanim. If he wants. Give him Valencias, yeah. The Divrei Rivos also takes the same Gemara in Baba Kama, and he says that if a coin gets devalued, it is considered that it becomes puzzle. It's like puzzle. Yeah. So therefore, we would have thought it would make sense to say that you should pay according to the value, being that he sold according to the original value. So being that he sold him these Valencias at 4,040 Levanim, and he has to pay him back in Groshim, so he would have to pay him now the Groshim in Groshim based on the original, means pay him now based on the original value of the loan. Means you pay him more, we have to pay more Groshim to cover the original value of the loan. Yeah, and he has to pay, and he says like this. And what's his diuk over here? He says, when I gave you this Valencias, and I told you they're at 101 apiece, and I told you pay me back 80 Grushim, so obviously, and 40 Levanim, what did I tell you? The Grushim that I want are a Grush that's worth 50 Levanim each, because that's how I wrote in the star. You come to me and you're paying me now with Grushim that are worth 40 apiece. It's not the same coin. It's not the same coin. It's not the same loan. I made a deal with you, so you're stuck. I tell you, pay me back in Grushim, but the way I define the Grushim is based on that calculation. It's like me telling you, I'm lending you now 1,000 Grushim, that each one of them is worth 50 Levanim, and you have to pay me back 1,000 Grushim. Yeah, you have to pay me back at this and this time. So if I then come and I pay you back with Grushim that are worth 40, I'm not paying you the same. I'm not paying you the loan. It's not what we made up. We made up. You're going to pay me with Grushim that are worth 50 each.
There's no way out to wait till it goes back up.
There is no way out. You have to wait till it goes back up. Yeah, technically. Yeah, that's the Marashach, the Divrei. Yeah, both of them, it seems pretty clear, both of the dividend. He says the maskana of it is you have to pay him according to the value of 101 Levanim, because that's what's written in the shtar. Yeah, but if it wouldn't not have been written in the shtar, it seems like he holds like the Marashach, that you would only have to pay the 80 Grushim plus 40 Levanim, and not 100 Grushim. Elamai, since the shtar wrote it in such a way that he's selling Valencias for 101, so that's what he ended up with it. Yeah, that's the Marashach. The Marashdam is chilek on them completely. The Marashdam starts by saying, we'll call it a very strong statement. He says, I thought that the Sachrim would figure it out between themselves and to stop fighting, but they didn't do that. Each one went his own way, and therefore I have to say what I think about this case. Even though I know that somebody else already said what he thinks about the case also. So therefore I also have to write what I think about it. Now the Marashdam was older than both the Marashach and the Divrei. All of them were Rabbanim in Greece. At the same
What era?
late 1500s, I think. Late 1500s, mid to late 1500s. Just interestingly, at that time, Greece, the Ottoman Empire, gave a lot of leeway for Rabbanim to pass in the Choshen Mishpat. You go through the tshuvas of those generations of the Greek rabbis, you have full tshuvas and Choshen Mishpat, a lot more. In Europe, you didn't have that much. The Rabbanim, the Tzemach Tzedek, tshuvas and Choshen Mishpat were not printed till America. The rest of the set was printed in Europe. Tzemach Tzedek was printed only in America because was issues. Rabbanim were not allowed to pass in the monetary things of these kinds, make these decisions. By Greece, it was. Yes, the Marashdam says, he has the first long tshuva on the topic in Siman Ayin Hey, Choshen Mishpat Siman Ayin Hey, and he says that from the pashtus from the simple lashon of the Gemara, it seems that if I borrow a certain amount of money, whether it goes up, whether it goes down, I have to pay that amount that I borrowed, and that's it. And he brings the Gemara in Baba Kama and Rashi and Taisvus. And he says, "Taka from there, from what seems over there, yeah. If the coin was not nifsal, it just went down. If you read the simple wording of the Gemara, you would think you pay back the old coin, and you're potter. So you would have to pay only 80 groshim." Then he says, it's not possible for somebody to understand such a concept. I sell you merchandise for a certain amount of money, and I want to make of it profit. Now, there's a certain margin of profit for every product. You have certain products, the margin of profit is you make double the money. If something which is sold not so often. If you sell jewelry, you make a much higher margin because you only sell a few pieces. If you sell milk or bread, you have a much smaller margin because you sell a lot more. So a person makes a determination, he's selling a product, he wants to make a certain profit off it. LMI, he's giving you a payment plan. He's giving you a payment deferral for 2 months. So you come back then, the value of the coin went down. Not only didn't I make profit, I lost. Because I was planning on making 10 cents on the dollar. Now the coin got devalued 20 because it went down. Each grush went down from 50 to 40. It's the same as 100 to 80. It's 2 times 15, 2 times 40. So it's so I wanted to make 10 cents on the dollar. I ended up, not only did I not make 10 cents on each dollar, I lost 10 cents on each dollar. I lost 20 cents on each because I paid for it, and I paid for something 90 cents. I'm selling it to you for $1. Simple economics. So I wanted to make 10 cents. Now I'm only getting paid 80. So not only didn't I not make profit, I also lost money off you. So that doesn't make sense. So therefore, he says it does not make sense that if I lend you something which is worth 100, these grushim, when I gave you the money, these grushim were worth 100. It means these grushim were worth, each were worth 50. So 2 grushim were worth 100. And compared to the case of the sale, when I get back, I'm getting 2 grushim, each one's worth 40, I'm only getting back 80. So I'm losing money off it. So therefore, he explains, he says, no, you have to explain based on the Hemshech of the Gemara of the Bava Kama, where the Gemara says, there's a story, Rava asked Rav Chizde regarding the Malva al Matbeya, regarding that question, Malva al Matbeya. Yeah, according to Rav, what do we say? We said over there that you have to pay for Matbeya Yaitzi Beis Shah. So what's the din if the Matbeya didn't lose value? On the contrary, it went up in value. Do you have to pay him Kafia Matbeya Yaitzi Beis Shah, according to the current value? And Rav Chizde says yes, even if it's much more. So Rav asked a question within the Gemara, if the Matbeya went up, so you could buy more schayre for that. What's the deal over here? I sold you schayre, I sold you 100 pounds of potatoes for a certain price. Now for a certain amount of coins. Now that amount of coins went up. Its value went up. So if I'm going to give you now that, because it's a loan, yeah? It's a loan it's a loan over here. I'm going to give you back now that certain amount of coins that I decided in the beginning. That amount of coins now I could buy much more potatoes. I gave you 100 pounds of potatoes, but if you're going to pay me the price that we decided 2 months ago, I could buy with it 120 pounds of potatoes. So Rav Ashi answers, that's the question of Rav. Rav Ashi, obviously talking about, he answered a few generations later. And so Rav Ashi answers, if the fruits now are, if the reason you could buy more fruits now is because, for that price, is because the coin's value went up, the coin itself went up, then obviously you pay less coins. But if the reason that the fruits went down is because of, the reason why you could buy more fruits with this coin is because of a different reason. For example, it says, I think because it rained, so there's much more fruits on the market. So the reason you could buy 120 pounds of potatoes is not because the value of the coin went up, especially because there's much more potatoes in the market. So therefore, you have there's a lot more stock. There's more people, less people. There's more potatoes in the market, so it's cheaper. So then you pay according to the price that was set up, regardless of how many potatoes you could buy with it. And then the Gemara says, however, if the reason why the coin went up is because the coin itself got bigger, that means used to be that each coin was the size of a quarter. Yeah, that was the coin that, let's call it a dinner, was the size of a quarter in silver. And now, here's an example. Now they decided that they're making that the size of a $50. So it's mamash a lot more silver in it. So then, if I'm going to tell you, pay me back the same 50 coins, those 50 coins, it's mamash ribis. That's total ribis. So the Marashdam says like this. Based on that, it says, based on this Gemara, it says, if the fruits went, just like when you have the fruits went down because of a coin that went up in value by weight, yeah, because the coin just became bigger coin, so you pay less in the new coin. Same thing would be the other way around. if they made the coins used to be the size of $50, they became the size of a quarter. So now the coin lost value because of itself. So you'd also, according to the Gemara, it's clear you'd have to pay more coins because the silver and the coin went down. You have to pay more coins. So that way the Malva shouldn't lose anything. And then the Marashdam says the same logic that the Gemara tells you. This is the Chiddush of the Marashdam. Same logic the Gemara tells you when it comes to the coins, that the actual coin became bigger or smaller, applies also if the coin changed values because Exeris HaMalchus. What difference is there in that? Be'etzem, the reason, because why? This is the way the Marashdam looks at it. The Gemara is toilet in the fruits. The Gemara says if you could buy more fruits because the value of the fruits went down, then that's one way. And if the reason why you could buy more fruits is because the coin changed in value, then you look at it differently. So he says over here, you see the Gemara is toilet in how many fruits you can buy. That is dependent on the value of the coin. So if the government is the one that decides that you could buy more fruits of that coin or less fruits of that coin, same thing. It's not that the Gemara says that you have to do, that it's dependent on the value. Because simple reading of the Gemara would be, the coin got bigger, there's more silver in the coin, so it's worth more. The coin got smaller, less silver in the coin is worth less. Marashdam says, no, you don't look at it. You look at it from the angle of how many fruits you can buy. So if you could buy more fruits because of the coin change, then it's one way. So that's what he says. If it's because of the government, it's also that way. And the Marashdam adds another reason that why you have to pay. He says, but by the way, another reason why you have to pay according to the value now, according to what it was worth at the time of the Alva, is because you go Basar Umdana. There's certain times you go according to the Umdana. You have to think, what did the person think in his mind? Why did he write the value in the star? Why did he write he's selling you 40 Valencias at the 101? Because he thought, he wanted to tell you, I'm selling it to you for the value, and he thought that the value is going to stay. That's why he wrote 101 Valencia, 101 Levanim, 80 Grushim that are worth that amount of money. He made the whole thing planned in such a way that any coin you're going to use, the value is going to stay the same. We have 3 coins in circulation. Each Valencia is worth 101 Levanim, and the Grushim are worth this amount, looks like they're worth this amount. So we have 3 coins, and he's expecting the coins to stay the same value, and he wants to get paid in one of the coins in the Grushim over the other ones. But he wants that, and if he didn't think Bichal that the value is going to drop. If he would think the value is going to drop, he would make it nigh, obviously. Yeah. So therefore, we go back to the Umdana, and the Umdana is that he was looking at it that way, and therefore you pay according to the new value. Yeah. So now there's a question. You didn't make it nigh. You should have made it nigh. If you didn't make it nigh, you lose. Chachamim of Bereisha, you have coins. The country could the value, the price of the coins could go up, could go down. Should have made it nigh that you want to do it based on the value going up or going down. So Marashdam says, "Mishiyam ekin lo b'dasi daber." Whoever says such a thing is not talking sense. Something which is not shchiach, you don't make such a t'nai. And therefore, you can't bring a raya that being that he made it, that he didn't make it t'nai, he loses out. I go basar umdana. Therefore, the Marashdam concludes that halacha l'maaseh, whether if you owe him 100 grushim or 100 zeuvim, now you have to pay based on the amount that they were worth at the beginning. And then he says, but be'etzim we don't need it because the shtar itself clearly specifies that you have to pay. That he's selling it based on 101. But really, you would have to pay based on the value regardless. Yeah, that's the Mashach and the Verivos pass in the same way. Yeah, and you still have to pay according to the value. They all pass in the same way, but they come from different angles. The Marashdam paskins that be'etzim you always have to go according to value, and the shtar only adds a bonus. And the Verivos and the Mashach says be'etzim you always have to pay according to the original one. Elamai, you had a shtar, so you have to pay that value. Yeah. So that's pretty much the Marashdam. I want to finish one more paragraph in the Marashdam. 2 more paragraphs, and then we'll be mamshich tomorrow. And the Marashdam brings now the Gemara in Perek Hazov. The Braisa over there says that we know we're talking about there's an Isser, which Isser Italki is worth is 24 Isarim going to a dinner. The Gemara says the mind of Kamina Mekachomem, and Rashi says, what's the mind of Mekachomem? If somebody sells a dinner for more than 24 Isarim, it's considered a no. The dinner of a no. If I sell something more than a 6 above the set value, then it's considered they have to give back the no. If not, it's an Isra no, but there's no chiyuv to give back. There's no chiyuv in Bezin to give back. Yes, the Tosfos says, what happens if the Isra goes down in value? So it used to be 24 Isarim for a dinner, and now it's maybe 26 Isarim for a dinner. So Tosfos says, if I sell a object for 24 Isarim, at the time when 24 Isarim are worth 1 dinner, and then the Isarim went down so much that it became 32 Isarim for a dinner, then you can't say at the time of then it was Chav Daled, I'm giving you 24 Isarim. You lost a third, because from 24 to 32 you lost a third. No, you can't do that. You can't come and say that my Isarim are worth the same. The dinner went up in value. The Isser stayed the same value. We set on 24, stayed on 24. Elamai, he has to give him either a dinner of Kesef, because that's a strong coin, or he gives him 32 Isarim. And the Marashdam says, based on that, from this Tosfos, you see that if I made a condition for 24 Isarim, and then it went up to 32, we still say, I still have to give 32. Yeah, that's the end of this Marashdam, and they have another Marashdam also similar and about a different story. He says also over there that if the value, he's talking about a case when the value of the grushes went up. He says if the grushes went up, Rosh Shimon only has to pay what they were worth at the time of the loan. That means you pay less than what you borrowed. It doesn't make a difference if it went up or went down. He says exact opposite of the Marashach. The Marashach says it goes up, it goes down, it goes to the Malveh. Marashdam says it goes up, it goes down. The Loiv is the one who gets the benefit or the loss. And if he takes more, he says there's no, if the Moicher takes according to the number, the value went up. So if it's Meah b'Meah and the value went up, he says it's not Mitzat Ribis, there's no Isser of Ribis, but there's an Isser of Gzeila. We're going to stop here. We'll continue tomorrow, the second half of the Shiur.